Have you ever gone to a school board meeting and complained to your educators about the education that they're not giving your children and that the education that they are giving to your children is not anything that you want them exposed to? Well, if you've done that, chances are you could be a domestic terrorist. President Obama Biden and his sidekicks within the Department of Justice have decided that parents who are showing up at school board meetings are somehow equated with domestic terrorism. Now, this, of course, got started because parents have been pushing back now for nearly a year. First of all, figure out how to get our kids back to school. This sitting at home, Zooming school, or working on school virtually isn't working. I could have told you that. In fact, I did tell you that when it all first started. I have been in education 30 years. I have been the administrator of 3 different schools. And I can tell you that among the educational elite, the whole concept of homeschooling was something that has been laughed at, it has been ridiculed, and in some cases, I'll be honest with you, it's justified. I have dealt with a number of homeschool families through the years, and there are 2 groups of homeschool families. There are homeschool families that do it, and they do it very well. They've got a room in the house that looks like a classroom. They have a regimented schedule. They have excellent curriculum. And in any subject matter that the parent themselves is deficient in, they either bring in a tutor or they're involved in a network of homeschoolers where there is a parent or an instructor in that subject matter which keeps their kids at grade level or above where they need to be, or they go through a program. There are some excellent homeschool resources out there that are available online, done via video, done via satellite. So there are parents that do it really well, and there are parents that it's really obvious that, you know, this kid's history class is what, Time Magazine or watching a PBS documentary, and we're calling that our history class. So it's ridiculous on that level. And I agree that at times there are homeschool families that they haven't done it right. The kids can't read, they can't spell, they're woefully below grade level, and there's other issues. Well, we had a late night last night, so today we're not going to start school till noon, but we'll be done by 1. Sounds like that old Wizard of Oz song. We get up at 12 and start to work at 1, take an hour for lunch, and then at 2 we're done. You know, it's that's ridiculous, and it hurts the reputation of homeschool families that do it and do it well. But Shazam Batman, we had a pandemic, and then in the best Forrest Gump voice I can do, and just like that, everybody was a homeschool parent. Then it was okay when the teachers' unions didn't want to come to work because they might get sick. Funny, the same teachers' union that worked so hard to keep schools closed for so long because they didn't want their members getting sick, even though their members were being outed on beaches in Florida and Cancun, you know, enjoying their little time off. Now they're marching and they're protesting vaccine mandates. New York City, tens of thousands of public school teachers are marching in protest to vaccine mandate. And again, they have the right to do that. You know, we used to be able to deal with the fact that American citizens had rights, not privileges, to be given and taken away at the whim of a dictatorial mayor or governor or dementia-ridden president. These were inalienable rights that you were guaranteed to. Well, that's all gone, and now you only have the rights that fit the narrative or the agenda of the moment. And so now we have parents that have begun to get engaged. You know, for years, educators would talk about parents don't come to school board meetings and they're not engaged and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know, something happened during the pandemic, and I told you there really are some positive things we can take away from it. As a pastor, I have told my people, one of the positive things I feel that came out of the pandemic was parents got involved in their kids' lives again. There was a reset button that got hit on priorities within families. You know, You'd have dad taking these 2 kids to this activity, mom taking 2 other kids to a different activity, and they were crisscrossing, and, every night dinner was through the drive-thru in the family van and off to another busyness. And when all the busyness stopped, it forced families to be together again and to get reacquainted with each other again. And that's a good thing. The other positive that I took away from the pandemic was parents all of a sudden began to discover what their kids were being taught, because now the parent had to become the surrogate teacher at home, or at least the supervisor of the program. They had to become the adjunct professor. And all of a sudden, when they began to see what their kids were being exposed to, they said, "Oh, no way." Well, yes way. And so they have gotten involved. They have gotten vocal. They told school boards, "You figure out how to get these schools open." They told school boards, "We do not want this indoctrination type of curriculum being shoved down the throats of our young people. We don't want it." But it didn't matter. How dare you speak up? We know what's best for your child. I've said this before, and I will say it again. These are not public schools. These are government schools. They're not in the business of education. They are in the business of indoctrination. That's exactly what they're doing to your kids. They are indoctrinating them to a different way of life, a different set of values. Right now, the only reason you are still quasi-necessary, you provide housing and food, and you take care of their medical bills and buy them clothes and buy them their toys, etc., so that the government isn't burdened with that. But trust me, the reason school days get longer and they dream up more activities, they are trying to nullify your voice and your influence in the lives of your children. Make no mistake about it. That's the reason that your faith, your traditions, your values get ridiculed and mocked by woke teachers. And when you speak up, you're a radical. You're a troublemaker. How dare you? Have you figured out that freedom of speech is really under attack right now? Not just in the deplatforming of conservative voices on social media platforms, but you do not have the right, even you as an individual, as a parent, to speak anything contrary to the approved script. How dare you? How dare you question things about what we've all been through? The virus, the vaccine, the mandates. How dare you speak an opinion contrary? And if you're watching me right now and you consider yourself to be a classic liberal to the core, that ought to concern you too. Because that's really what this is about. I understand that some parents come to these meetings and things get heated. That happens. I can still remember as a kid, my mother and another mother getting hot with one another at a Little League game and yelling things back and forth the stands at each other, till finally my dad, who was a coach, came out of the dugout, literally took my mother out of the stands, put her in the car, told her to stay there till the game was over. Parents can do stuff like that. We get it. We certainly don't want there being any type of violence breaking out at any of these things. But you get some parents there and they've all got their impassioned opinions. Yes, they can be rude. They can be crude. We don't want anything violent to happen. But to call them domestic terrorists, really, Mr. President? You really have a hard time with anybody that has an opinion, that has a position different than yours. I thought Orange Man was the tyrant. I thought Orange Man was the totalitarian. Yet, who is it that's mandating vaccination for everyone? And if you can't, we're going to make life as miserable as possible for you. Look what's happening in the state of New York right now. They got rid of one lunatic governor and replaced him with a her on steroids for lunacy when it comes to this. 72,000 healthcare workers in New York are now out of a job because they refused vaccination, but they're being replaced with members of the National Guard. Okay? The military has stepped forward and said to this governor and other governors and mayors who are considering doing the same thing, that's right. We'll replace these healthcare workers with members of the National Guard of the Army. Let's talk about the stupidity of that for just a moment. Right now, even without these mandates kicking in, there is a shortage of healthcare workers. My wife is in the healthcare industry. There is a shortage of healthcare workers. There are nurses working double shifts because other nurses aren't coming in at their shift time to relieve them. There is a horrible crisis of healthcare workers right now. So what does the governor do when her hospitals and nursing homes are already short-staffed? She pulls 72,000 of them out and said, you're done. We'll just use the national. Well, first of all, are there enough National Guard and Army people to fill this? Because it's not just getting a warm body in there. Does Luke, the guy that runs the auto parts store and is a weekend warrior with the National Guard, does he have the same medical training as a nurse who's been on the job 20 years? The military came out this weekend warning mayors and governors this might not be a great idea. The reason being, the military has until June of 2022 to be vaccinated. So that means you are taking non-vaccinated healthcare professionals who are trained and licensed and involved in continuing education, doing what they do. You're taking them out because they're not vaccinated, and you're now replacing them with non-vaccinated military personnel who are in no way trained the same way that nurses are. What a brilliant solution. Because again, this is about not necessarily your health. This is about you will do what you're told. And parents have now woken up to this. After a year of seeing their kids sitting on the couch, really playing video games, and when they did crack a book or do a Zoom class, parents sat there and watched some of these Zoom classes and were horrified at what they heard coming out of the mouths of the teachers. And so now the parents are engaged, and they've said, we're not having it. We're not having it on all of this mandate madness for kids, and we're not having it when it comes to critical race theory. And you know who's speaking out against that? Black parents are. They've said, oh, no, heck no, this ain't happening. We have parents that are speaking up. We have students that are speaking out. And the Department of Justice is now targeting them and going to be investigating them because this is all an intimidation factor of shut your mouth, keep your opinion to yourself, and do as you're told.
When you talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much what it's going to, that's pretty much, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, time up, because I only got 5 minutes now, 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees. No mom, no dad in the house. Worked my way through college. Sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious? Not one white person ever came to me and say, well, son, you're never going to be able to get nowhere because you know the black people. But guess what? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't going to be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't going to let you get no, oh, you know you're not going to be able to do it here because you know, the white man going to keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I worked for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory? Of this the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to now. I can't believe we even talking about this right now. The last thing I'm gonna say right here is something that's crazy. Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they let this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. Y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense. That's exactly what's about to happen. Lastly, we are talking about our kids. We are talking about our children. What's so sickening about me, I love the Discovery Channel. You will see that on the Discovery Channel, animals will put their lives on the line to protect their children from danger. Nobody want to get to the heart of the matter, get to the meat of the matter, get to more of the story. It all comes down to it. The person that's going to be suffering from this, the one's going to be hurt from this, is the kids. 10 years from now, if this stuff goes on, whose fault is it going to be? Whose fault is it going to be? Who are we going to look back on and blame for this? Because this is stuff we're talking about right now. This stuff is going on right now. I do this stuff on a daily basis. I'm in the hood. I'm in the communities. I'm out there with folks in their face. I've been doing this stuff since I was 18 years old, talking to black folks. And you know what? None of them are buying this nonsense. None of them are. But if you want to implement this into the school system, I guarantee you to the day that I die, I'm going to be the very person right there debunking stuff, tearing stuff down, letting them know they can do exactly what I did and get exactly where I am by putting themselves to work and getting there. And ain't not one white person ever going to keep any of them from getting there. So the CRT stuff, BS.
My name is Keisha King. I'm a mom of two, one who's in the Duval County Public School System and one in private school thanks to school choice. I'm also a member of Moms for Liberty, representing thousands of parents. Just coming off of May 31st, marking the 100 years of the Tulsa riots, it is sad that we are even contemplating something like critical race theory, where children will be separated by their skin color and deemed permanently oppressors or oppressed in 2021. That is not teaching the truth, unless you believe that whites are better than blacks. I have personally heard teachers teaching CRT, and we have had an assembly shut down because Duval County Public School System consultant thought it would be a great idea to separate students by race. This is unacceptable. CRT is not racial sensitivity or simply teaching unfavorable American history or teaching Jim Crow history. CRT is deeper and more dangerous than that. CRT, in its outworking today, is a teaching that there is a hierarchy in society where white, male, heterosexual, able-bodied people are deemed the oppressor, and anyone else outside of that status is oppressed. That's why we see corporations like Coca-Cola asking their employees to be less white, which is ridiculous. I don't know about you, but telling my child or any child that they are in a permanent oppressed status in America because they are black is racist, and saying that white people are automatically above me, my children, or any child is racist as well. This is not something that we can stand for in our country. And don't take it from me, look at the writers of these types of publications. Our ancestors, white, black, and others, hung, bled, and died right alongside each other to push America towards that more perfect union. If this continues, we will look back and be responsible for the dismantling of the greatest country in the world by reverting to teaching hate and that race is a determining factor on where your destiny lies. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Brad Taylor, and I just finished my freshman year at RHS. I've been a part of District 196 schools now for 10 years, and I'm going to give you a glimpse today of what's actually going on inside these schools. Despite the board's attempt to deny it, District 196 schools are quickly becoming a place where promoting activism is actually more important than promoting education. I'll take you back to my first day at RHS this fall. The principal came out and gave us a heartfelt speech about equality and standing together. He began to list countless races, such as Latino, Asian, expressing how much they matter and how important they are. But never once did he mention a race or identity that reflects me, or half the kids that were in the class. To be clear, I don't need you to tell me that I matter, but hearing the condolences given to other races and leaving just one race out, inevitably you'll start to feel like you've done something wrong. And in our principal's attempt to unify us, he instead created unwarranted boundaries and barriers between his students, pitting us against each other based on characteristics that we can't control. In another separate instance, I was told that writing "All Lives Matter" on the whiteboard was political and could be seen as offensive. When I questioned the teacher after class, she told me that she didn't have an answer and she just had to erase it, and it was quickly erased. There are political signs all over RHS, about specific races that matter, specific sexual orientations that matter, and specific perspectives that matter. But when I questioned the RHS administration about how these signs were political, they told me that they were supporting human rights. So when I questioned why the equity statement couldn't represent all students, they told me that to even ask that question was outlandish and offensive. And when I asked why that was, they told me, quote, "Whites have a pretty good situation right now," unquote. So is that not racism? Disregarding my question merely because of the color of my skin? I've been approached by multiple teachers who have told me in private that they just want to say that they agree with me and they support me standing up, but they can't say it in front of the class for fear of being disciplined by the administration in some way or losing their jobs. Now, due to all these instances I've mentioned and many more that I can't fit in this 5-minute speech, I've decided to leave this district and continue school on a private Christian school online. And there will be sacrifices, and I will not get to walk in the graduation ceremony or attend milestones at RHS, but I will be able to learn in an environment that is not intent on punishing me daily for my skin color and political views. Now, regardless of how you take my speech, whether you just shrug it off as malarkey or Fox News talking points, I encourage you to think about it, because someday I'm going to be a leader. I may be the president, a governor, or just a professional golfer. But I will never stop believing that everybody has value, no matter their skin color or personal beliefs. And it's a shame that you're not going to be able to say that I was an alumni of RHS in District 196. Thank you.
The other day I was walking down the hallway at Lakeview Elementary School to give a teacher a retiring gift. I looked up onto the wall and saw a BLM poster and an Amanda Gorman poster. In case you don't know who that chick is, she's some girl who did a poem at Biden's so-called inauguration. I was so mad. I was told 2 weeks ago at this very meeting spot, no politics in school. I believed what you said at this meeting. So at lunch I went up to my principal to tell him about the BLM poster and that I wanted it down. It is a political message about getting rid of police officers, rioting, burning buildings down while King Governor Welch just sits on his throne and watches. We all know. I am 9 years old and I know that. Get the posters out of our schools. Courage is contagious, so be courageous.
The Western culture and values that brought forth Christianity in the founding documents are being called evil and racist.
I'm reminded of the tyranny of communist China, where your money is legally stolen and then used in government schools, not public schools. These are not public schools, these are government schools, like here, to indoctrinate children against their parents.
My child is not oppressed, and don't assume that. As long as you Marxists push your unconstitutional agenda on my child, she will not be returning back to Loudoun County schools.
I've noticed a pattern. You treat your bosses, most of us, like children. You treat the woke mob, your employees and teachers unions, like the boss. And you treat children who have not harmed you like pawns in your leftist social experiment. When you give us a timeout for clapping, we hear you saying, "Look at me, I am the captain now." You're not the captain, we're your bosses, and God willing, we'll return most of you to the private sector very soon.
You're teaching children to hate others because of their skin color. And you're forcing them to lie about other kids' gender. I am disgusted by your bigotry and your depravity.
Joe Mobley to be followed by Donna.
Yep. You should all be fired from your day jobs, because if your employers knew that you were more inefficient than the DMV, you would be replaced in a heartbeat. I literally just finished a conference call because I'm having to multitask to be here to address you guys. You're a bunch of cowards hiding behind our children as an excuse for keeping schools closed. You think you're some sort of martyrs because of the decisions you're making, when the statistics do not lie that the vast majority of the population is not at risk from this virus. The garbage workers who pick up my freaking trash risk their lives every day more than anyone in this school system. Figure it out or get off the podium, because you know what? There are people like me and a line of other people out there who will gladly take your seat and figure it out. It's not a high bar. Raise the freaking bar.
Hey, that's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. Smack the bell, click the word all to get notification of my next rant.